And welcome to Conservative Drag Queen Story Hour, where we only tell stories from books that Christian conservatives approve of. Today's Bible story is entitled The Creator of All. I form the light and the darkness. I make the peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. God. We see that he made demons. We see that he made flowers. Oh, how pretty, how cute. We love the smell of flowers. Ooh, but we don't love the smell of radiation. He also made music. And he made murderers. And he made volcanoes. Guess that's why Christianity isn't so popular in Pompeii. God must have been having one of those moods he gets in that day. And he made sunshine. And he hand places the melanoma inside of your body through the sunshine that he made.
Oh yes, honey. I woke up and chose war today because y'all want me to believe that a murderer on death row can get saved and go to heaven, but my gay family member is definitely in need of help, and they should seek Jesus when they are the most purest soul I know. Make that make sense to me. The person I call every time I'm in emotional distress, their sexual orientation disqualifies them from heaven. But the person who gets saved in the prison cell and repents and gives his life to the Lord, and he deserves a second chance. But my gay family member, we need to work on this because God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. The biggest crock of shit. Men been fucking men for a long time, okay? Y'all want to talk about the Roman Empire? Men, tell them what really went on in the Roman Empire, since y'all want to make that the most trending TikTok. The downfall of the Roman Empire was probably all the little parties they had in those bathing pools. Yes, that was the collapse of the Roman Empire. Lust.
People know things in the United States government. I don't mean know things like the X-Files. I mean, they have intelligence, obviously you don't have. And for as swampy and dumb as some of these people can be, some of them who become political, there are still a lot of good people working in there. Not everyone in there is corrupt. We've been distracted for a long time. People know things. The time to do that was yesterday. The second best time to do it is right now. They're demons and savages who will be called nothing less on this show. They're not warriors. They're fucking cowards and bloodthirsty motherfucking demons. That's what they are. Fucking demons. These people are coming for you next. These demons have a saying. First we get the Saturday people, and then we get the Sunday people. These fucking demons are coming for you next. You have no idea how many of these, fairly or unfairly, about a lot of global conflicts. Not this one. Because they don't give a shit how you see it. These demons don't care how you see it. The only thing that matters is how they see it. I have been trying to explain this to people for years. They don't care. If you go in the boxing ring and you're with a guy in there with a chainsaw and you're trying to lobby the guy that you read the rules differently backstage, there are no chainsaws, as he's cutting your chest open, it doesn't matter what you think the rules are. All that matters is what he thinks. Folks, I did this for a living. I'm not going to get into raptures and spiritual wars right now, but although those are very viable conversations to have, and I'm sure we're going to have them, this is tactics strictly today. It doesn't matter what you think. It's what they think. They don't see the difference. We and them, us and them. There's no us and them. They just see us and them, not us and them, if you get what I mean.
Hate is a terrorism.
I think it's about time I make another video. What do you think? Yes. See, I've been posting a lot of things here recently about cause and effect. That's what we're going to classify this one as. Yes. Cause and effect. And we're going to distinguish character of hate versus character of reaction. Reaction is a character building trait. Now, you might be lost in the loop and unsure who started what, but let me tell you, I'm going to lay that out for you as the people who watch. Yes.
Stitch this with a fact so ridiculous you didn't believe it until you looked it up yourself.
Paint the scene. I am in Israel studying biblical geography. I am sitting at the feet of a rabbi when he informs me that Moses didn't exist. Like what? Didn't exist. Like the person was made up. And I thought he was joking and I had to look it up and rabbis already knew this. This was not new information for rabbis. This was like, oh yeah, like King Arthur. The story is still valuable, but the person didn't actually exist. There's no actual evidence at all for the enslavement of the Israelites or the 10 plagues. I was actively using the 10 commandments in my missionary work. As an evangelical, this is a list that God gave to Moses who didn't exist. What?
Guys, what you just heard is concerning for the Abrahamic religions, the people who believe in these Abrahamic religions. So if you're Christian, Jew, or Muslim, everything starts with Moses. Everything in your religion starts with Moses, because the claim is that he wrote the commandments and he supposedly wrote the Adam and Eve story. And listen, if there was no Moses, everything falls apart. If there was no Moses, if Moses is a fictional character, then that means that there was no Adam and Eve, there was no tree, there was no fruit, there was no serpent, there was no... And guys, please don't think that this lady who said this, she's just pulling this out of thin air or from her behind. No, it is fact. Go and ask rabbis. They will tell you Moses did not exist. And then, oh, this is so bad, because if there was no tree, if there was no Adam and Eve, if there was no commandments, if there was none of these things, guess what? Then there was no Jesus. You heard me. There was no Jesus. Jesus came to die for whatever went wrong in the garden, right? Because man sinned after eating a fruit. Makes no sense. So Adam and Eve sinned by eating the fruit. If there was no Adam and Eve and there was no fruit, and you're telling me Jesus still died, then Jesus died a senseless death. Senseless, just very senseless. Shouldn't have bothered. Should have just sat his ass just right next to daddy up there. But guess what, guys? This is why I will continue to insist that religion is nothing but a scam. And if your preachers, your teachers, the people who teach you, they know this already and are still perpetrating this lie, then they are con artists. They are con men. Most of your preachers, most of your pastors are con men.
Oh God, that hurts. Oh God, I'm so tired. Oh God, I didn't want to lose her. Oh God, I didn't want to have that pain. Oh God, no. Oh, you love me so much, don't you?
No, you teach your children. Shut up. On stuff. Stop people. Be nice. Be nice. Stop people. Stop people. Be nice. No, Look at him!
שקט, לכו מפה! שקט! לכו מפה!
Why you raise your voice? Why you raise your voice? You are such a good person when you raise your voice. Please let me raise my voice, not you. You're supposed to don't raise your voice and go. Go. Because you're inciting people. Try to understand. You're inciting people. Please go.
Let us leave.
What do you incite people?
Let us leave.
Yes. Go. Don't incite people.
Stop it!
Let's go. Let's walk.
We got you on film! Oh, we got you on film! We got you
Please
saying
go. You have
nothing
to
to the
respect
children.
other people's.
We're leaving, and you're following
Very
us.
good. Very good.
I feel like to young women, unironically, they need to find a man that's very misogynistic. If you at all want to have a guy that's going to like make you follow his frame, and you need to find a strong Christian man that's going to put you in your place, or else you're going to dominate the relationship. And when a woman dominates the relationship, it's destined for failure, because I see even how I was different, like in my previous relationship. I was dominating and I was such a bitch, like such a Jezebel. And, you know, I wasn't always like a good wife or like this great, or even Christian. I used to be atheist, but he has completely transformed who I am and how I act because he's such a strong Christian man, and he doesn't let me get by on things. He always will nitpick everything because he's literally training me how to be a good Christian wife. You need to be trained.
Wow.
Women are bitches and they need to be trained. So that's my advice. Find a man that will train you.
Wait, no, because this is actually such a good song idea. Let me know if you guys think I should finish this. You're a bitch to be trained, needing someone to obey. You're a sinful, wretched thing, always making him stumble. So you'll beg at his feet, and you'll live there on your knees, cater to his every need, so submissive and humble. Well, it sure sounds like Stockholm Syndrome love. Blink twice if you need help. I'm so sorry you've been taught to think so lowly of yourself. And if that's what makes you holy, then I'd rather be a Jezebel. Then I'd rather be a Jezebel. Call me Jezebel. Call me Jezebel. Is it good? I think it might be good.
If I had 8 different history books from different areas of the world, and these 8 history books talk about World War II, and then there's one that doesn't mention World War II at all, doesn't say it didn't happen, just doesn't mention it. Are you going to believe that World War II happened because it's in 8 different books? Or are you going to believe it didn't happen because it's not in one? Common sense. I know it's hard. Logical thinking. I know it's hard. Tells you the one who is silent on it is the one lying. Because it's been altered more than 30,000 times. And it does not mention marriage. I can play this game. It's going to be a lot of fun. The Quran says Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. According to ancient Buddhist texts, Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. According to ancient Hindu texts, Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. According to ancient Taoist texts, Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. According to ancient Shinto texts, Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. According to ancient Confucianism texts, Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. According to ancient Zoroastrian texts, Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. According to ancient Hebrew texts, Jesus was married. Only the Bible does not say Jesus is married, but it used to. Till the ecumenical councils got it in their hands and removed all mentions of Christ's humanity, including the fact that he wed and fathered children. What's more likely? 8 religious texts from different areas around the world claim he was married. 7 of them claim he was married to Mary Magdalene. The Hebrew text does not say to whom he was married. So what's more likely? These 8 religions lied in a global conspiracy to make people believe that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married. Or one religion lied and didn't say he was married. What's more likely? These other religions from around the world, no dog in the fight, no reason for them to lie. And they didn't influence each other because they're from different areas of the world. They would have no reason to lie. Christians had every reason to lie. They didn't want people to know that Jesus was human. They didn't think they could control members of the church if people knew that Jesus was human. The Quran, the Buddhist texts, the Hindu texts, the Confucian texts, and the Shinto texts have never been altered. The Bible has been altered more than 30,000 times, not including translations. We're still changing the Bible to this day. So you've got 8 religious texts from around the world saying he was married. 7 of them say he was married to Mary Magdalene. 5 of them have never been altered. One religious text that has been altered more than 30,000 times. Which one are you going to believe? It would have been noteworthy if Christ hadn't gotten married, because it was the law back then that men had to get married unless there was a deformity or infertility.
The law of the
Which
land.
is more believable. The Bible would have stated why Christ didn't get married.
I'm going to talk about the law of
And
the land.
It's still, even though those books have been removed that talk about him being married and having children, the Bible still kind of suggests that his relationship with Mary Magdalene was different than it was with any of the other disciples and apostles. The Bible still says today, he spoke with her more often. He spoke with her more intimately. He spoke with her without a chaperone near, which would have been a no-no back then if they weren't married. And it was to her that he first appeared after the resurrection. And it was Mary Magdalene who was told to take her children out of Israel. Her children would not have been in any danger if they were not the children of Christ. Logical thinking, deductive reasoning, critical thinking. I was right. It was fun. A little sad, but fun.
So she talks about the law of the land, and this is something that I think makes me sad that somewhere in all of our history that more people didn't just sort of like remember the place from within, like really set your mind in existence in that time frame. This was a time frame when you as a common person, us, would not have been able to read and write, and it would have been forbidden for us to preach anything from the Christian religion unless we did it in Latin. You would have been burned at the stake for not preaching out of the Bible in Latin. So we're talking, you know, Christianity is spread up into Europe, like, and being burned at the stake if you didn't speak it in Latin. When they give it a law of the land to get married, see, one thing you never hear is about other relationships. What they needed was marriage, and I've talked about this in other videos, and it's something I've long understood for decades, is the law of the land wasn't like it is now. And like today, then they were fighting religious wars and territory, and then the Muslim religion 500 years after the Christian religion was formed, building on top of and capitalizing more. One thing you'll notice about religions in history is each one gets a little bit better than the one before because they've capitalized on everything previous. So when one has to make a correction in history, they all find their ways of having to make their own correction because they're all built on one, which is one of the reasons why you have to get to the base and you have to get to the mentality and the people with the knowledge. And, you know, we're talking the Dark Ages and religion, power. Religion was, you were the power. You were the key holders. I mean, that's what the Dark Ages was. You know, we're not going to get into that because that's a gruesome conversation. But so in times of war, then wars were won by what? Population numbers. Unlike today, where that has a lot to it, but what kind of weapons you have is what wins wars these days, unless you're a terrorist. And that's kind of what this video, and you know, there's a lot of things we're having discussions. I'm just opening up discussion because there's a lot to be discussed, and the root of most problems in the world is contained within this video. It was an edict given to the lands that you had to have relationships where you formed and had children. And it was important that, you know, one person couldn't raise a child. They didn't say anything about gay relationships. What they said is they couldn't lie with as a woman because you needed to build up those households. They never said anything about outside relationships. And I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of things because there's things I could say that could really trigger some people, but washing feet was a euphemism for something. And there's a lot of biblical incest during these times too. You have to understand the monotheistic religion and when it was formed and out of Egypt and the history about that. There's a lot of very uncomfortable conversations, and I've dropped hints here and there on different social media sites. There's a grander conversation that has to be had because all of these world problems is built on a fictitious and of control of narcissistic people seeking power. And it is something that when you see and you understand, you have to understand what a narcissist is and what they do and the kinds of things that they do. And then you have to have a pretty good understanding of the Bible and all religions. And when you can start to see those things together, you can't unsee them. And then you see it, and it is an overwhelming feeling. A bit like I would imagine having like a diabetic attack. You just feel forward and sort of a little bit off the ground and light, like your feet aren't touching. You're just sort of floating up above the space. Your body and your spirit separate. It's that sort of feeling that one gets. But there are heavy conversations to have, and I'm 6 years, whatever, tail end of 5 into 6 years into this deconstruction of religion, and I couldn't have envisioned how it would still be unraveling. I want to just finish here, and I have said that I'm a realist in the realist form, meaning that I can accommodate for even those beliefs that are not my own. But in there has to be a foundational truth conversation. And I am a strong proponent of reclassifying religion. And let me just say, in that reclassification, a parable is nothing but a fable for adults. Fables were childhood stories, life lessons. Parables are life lessons for adults and should be treated as such for all of us, and for the salvation and the ending of all wars and all the separation, because this has what's driven racism, class distinction, different scales of morality, vertical versus horizontal, and I'm sure there's going to be some more that are going to evolve out of that. I can sense that. There is a genuine conversation that has to be had, and we have to remember, and I mean this in respect and understanding, but our 2,000-year forefathers were stupid and ignorant and foolish in many ways, and we've built our societies and our ways of treating each other and just so much. Literally, they built a society on sand, as the parable in the Bible speaks. That's what they've done to our societies. It's time we have an honest conversation and fix it. Done with this crap.